Hi all, welcome to this EPL Player of the Month SBC guide for August. Obviously this will be the first one that drops into FIFA 20. Big question is obviously when, because with obviously the game being kind of released in Spain practically, would imagine it will probably be in a couple of weeks time, either during early access or during full release. But I would imagine regardless it wouldn't surprise me if it goes a full month this one, solely because it looks like to be a big one, either be Sterling, Aguero or Kevin De Bruyne. Now in FIFA 17 we had Sterling, nice player of the month card. I think I had that practically the entirety of FIFA 17. FIFA 18 was Mane and FIFA 19 was Lucas, so it's been kind of a winger theme, but I think this year looks like to be a forward potentially, or at least someone that you can kind of in a forward position. Like De Bruyne, you can position change from cap to striker. But anyways, my assumption is that it will be a Man City player solely because of their individual performances, and when you combine them it looks like they have stood out the most impressively. Despite Liverpool bagging 4 wins, I still feel that someone else, I think Man City just get the nod, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone from if Liverpool were to sneak in regardless. So hopefully you find this useful, folks. I'll try and break down each player and roughly where to go with requirements. Obviously Pukki was one that a lot of us wanted, and to be honest it wouldn't have been too bad. It'd be fairly cheap, especially if it was like 84 rated, 84, 85 rated. You could have a bit of fun with it at the start of FIFA. So with Aguero, he's got 6 goals, 1 assist, 3 wins, 1 draw from the 4 games, 4-star week foot, 4-star skill moves. In terms of potential routes, now the biggest problem is he'd won it in the past, he's won it in previous FIFAs, so you'd in theory think that could be a way to look at it. But your biggest problem is this is the first one of FIFA 20 that you have to then say, right, how are they going to do this that makes it affordable for a lot of people? Because you don't want to be putting in an SBC that is just kind of unattainable at the start of FIFA. You want to make it kind of desirable at least. So you've got Argentina, you've got EPL, you've got rated route, you've got the teams that they played in the month. So you've got to kind of factor in like your Bournemouths, your Tottenhams, and then you kind of go from there. Because if you build routes, if you can rely on your starter packs and like your returning packs, and then if you can rinse the club where needed of stuff that you don't need, if you've been able to build up coins and you're able to bring in those type of players from those teams, you would then be able to kind of build them there accordingly. My feeling would be like the most expensive route that they will go for would probably either be a rated route that might be like an 85 or an 86, and then a Premier League maybe like 86 route as well. My hope is that they don't just go crazy with this. I'm hoping at the very most they will go like 5 routes, and realistically they don't need to go much more. You could go 4 and just make it like higher than just a bit higher than they need to be. But the thing is, players like Aguero, De Bruyne and Sterling, each of them will likely get more special cards, so you've got to kind of alleviate the prices a little bit, and especially if they're untradeable, you've got to factor in those costs as well. So if it's Premier League, I would say minimum you want to be prepared for is an 85, the highest you want to be prepared for is an 87, and this applies to all 3 players, by the way. So basically what I'm saying now kind of applies to all. So Premier League 85 to 87, obviously in terms of players for what you would assume to kind of factor in, you might be looking at like your between like Alisson's, Lloris, Leno's, Ederson, those type of goalies. Then defender wise you might be looking at like Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Davison Sanchez, Socrates, Aspilicueta, Otamendi. Then in terms of like mids, you'd probably end up looking like Gundogan. Going Man City wise is not too bad either, to be honest, because at least you're prepared for Man City options if there are them. Then you'd look then from like maybe like Felipe Anderson, Heung-min Son, if you've like, even though he might be potentially a forward. then you have to then look from, at very highest, David Silva. Like, but I can't see him being like, that's like kind of maybe overkill to an extent. Fernandinho maybe an option. Matic, depending on like rating, for example. And then from kind of like there, like, as long as that pretty much covers the crux of like your big EPL players. Like Bournemouth wise, you might want to look at like Lerma. He'll be quite a popular shout. And then Joshua King, Callum Wilson, they're kind of like three solid shouts. Spurs, as I say, Davison Sanchez, Lloris, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Lucas, Heung-min Son, Harry Kane. And the same thing is, Kane can, like, some of these players can work for like Sterling, can work for De Bruyne, so they kind of work intertwined, so it kind of helps in reality. With De Bruyne and Aguero, you may find their previous clubs become a potential factor. So like Aguero is you've got like Atletico Madrid and Independiente, but there's not a guarantee that they will happen. Atletico maybe so, because there's enough like decent rated players like Koke, Saul, just to work from alone. Then you'd have the options with De Bruyne. You would have like Wolfsburg, Chelsea. Then I can't see them tapping into Belgium, but you never know, obviously. Like, as in the Pro League, not like Belgium as a nationality, I would expect them obviously to, if De Bruyne was to win. Then in like Sterling's case, you'd have Liverpool, QPR, but in Liverpool's case, you would end up trying to keep an eye on like Alexander-Arnold, but he'd probably be very expensive. You might then look at Gino Wijnaldum, Naby Keita, those type, Jordan Henderson, those type of players. As I said, Alisson might prove a smart option to kind of cover your back with, but you would look especially at England players, in probably Sterling's case, and also EPL. But as long as you cover Man City and their nations in particular, at least then you're protected. I would say the smartest option really is probably Man City players, because they will probably be Man City in Premier League, because those will be the ones that most people will try and get the most out of, really, because anything that's multiple requirement, like that can factor in for multiple requirements, it always covers your back. So if it's if De Bruyne wins, you kind of want to hope and pray you've got Vertonghen, Alderweireld, because that's Belgium, and then Spurs and EPL, so that's like three requirements that you've kind of covered your back with. Otamendi covers Argentina and the Premier League, and also for Man City, so each works in themselves. In De Bruyne's case, he's got 1 goal, 5 assists from the 4 games, and in Sterling's case, he's 5 goals. Also, just in case if Liverpool were to sneak in anywhere, Salah's got 3 goals and 2 assists from the 4 wins that he's got, so don't be surprised if he was to suddenly sneak in. Firmino 2 goals, 2 assists as well, but I don't really see anyone else. For me personally, it's going to be Liverpool or Man City, but I feel Manchester City have the nod only just because of their collective performances. Pookie's 5 goals, 1 assist, by the way, so that just kind of shows, despite 1 win and 3 losses, and yes, 1 game he did get a hat-trick, that it's going to be very difficult to kind of get sneaking in, as it were. But you never know, of course. Like, the fan vote was given to Pookie, but the official vote would most likely be a Man City or a Liverpool player. But if you can, as I say, be prepared for like rating a rated squad, their nation, the club, and the league especially, then you're basically sorted. It just comes down to where you're needing from there, because there's not going to be much else that you'll be missing. It just becomes down a case of either needing to build the route, and then depending if you've got to buy, say, individual players for teams if you've not packed them, or if you're needing just other rated players, then you kind of just say, oh, I just need to buy these players, like 3 or 4 players, and you're suddenly sorted. It doesn't exactly hurt. But as I said, the ratings are predictions. The stats or kind of predictions. I just kind of went along with how they were as well, and obviously the dynamic images are just from previous FIFAs. But hopefully, as I said, you find this useful, folks. I've probably dragged this on just a little bit, but it's just to give you as much of an idea as possible, and then it's for you to take from there and see where we go. So take it easy all, thanks for watching, hopefully you enjoyed this. Remember to smash the like, sub to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you all later.